Hey guys, this is Purge. How are you doing? I'm going to be making a quick patch notes video going on here. If you guys aren't aware, the new patch came out, and what this means is that the game is going to be moderately changed, especially on a competitive scene, because the heroes that are too good are going to be nerfed, and the heroes that are not good enough are going to be buffed. A very smart thing that IceFrog does, and one of the main reasons why he is so well revered as a game developer. So, things to talk about. The implications that this has. If you guys are semi-new to Dota 2, this is going to cover all of Dota 1 and Dota 2. The games are exactly the same as one another. Well, not exactly. That's not the correct term. The numbers of the heroes are exactly the same, excluding bugs, of course. So everything should be pretty much the same between the two games. So all of these numbers, despite this being playdota.com, this is generally the Dota 1 portal site. It's all going to be applied, so keep that in mind for everything here. Last time I made a video like this, I think it was around Christmas of last year when I made a patch notes. So I'm going to work on that now, and hopefully you guys enjoy. So I'm just going to kind of go over these things and give you guys my impressions and just talk about some of the implications of everything. I talked about this briefly last night with LD and some of his friends, as well as Blitz a little bit, and I'll kind of give you guys some of their feedback from memory. It might not be exactly correct, so don't hold me to that. But anyways, I hope you guys can read this. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. I think that looks a lot better. How about that? Okay, I'm going to make it nice and big so you guys can see what's going on. And I have my webcam more on the side. I don't think I block any text here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Okay, so let's start from the top. So web page is too large. Goblin Shredder added Captain's Mode. Skywrath Mage added Captain's Mode. I haven't played either of these heroes. I played Skywrath Mage once in Dota 1. But it was a stomp of a game, so I didn't really get to experience them. Captain's Mode first ban phase now has 2 bans instead of 3. Captain's Mode second ban phase now has 3 bans instead of 2. So why this is significant, a friend of mine explained it very well. It focuses the bans on the heroes, okay, so let me explain it like this. As the game started, before any picks were made, you got 3 bans. So 3 bans just completely taken out of the pool. Bam. 3 bans taken out of the pool from each team. This is before you have any idea of what your opponents are doing for a strat. And then, after they pick 3 heroes, you would get to ban 2. So really you'd be limited on banning out heroes that you think were OP, and not as focused on heroes that you thought the team might use in their strategies, basically. So now, there's hopefully going to be less OP heroes. We'll get to that later as we get to the hero discussions and the nerfs and things. But you still get to ban 2 OP heroes, but then they pick 3 heroes, and then you get to try to ban based on that. So there's going to be a lot more analyzing what they're drafting and banning accordingly. So very cool change. We'll see how it works out. Glyph duration increased from 4 to 5 seconds. Okay. Should make it a little bit easier to defend, save HP of towers. That's actually kind of a nerfed Diabolic Edict in some ways. That should cover almost all of the Edict damage. Wildkin Tornado vision decreased from 1200, 800 to 300. This is daytime and nighttime vision. 1200 day, 800 night probably is what that means. And now it's down to 300, which is a really good nerf to that spell. That spell is one of the best in the game. It's well decided. That means it's going to be harder to find people. You can't just give vision with the Wildkin Tornado. 1200 range is insanely huge range. That's hero daytime vision. These vision ranges. So that's a pretty good nerf. And Aegis reclaim time decreased from 10 minutes to 6 minutes. So that means as you kill Roshan and you take the Aegis, that means that the Aegis is only going to last for 6 minutes after that point. It doesn't mean Roshan's respawning in 6 minutes. It means that as you pick up the Aegis, you have to make something happen within 6 minutes instead of 10. So the most important part is you can't just save it until the next Roshan reclaim time and constantly be covered. There's always going to be a window where you can die. So I think this is very good because that's going to force, at the very least, slightly disable people from doing kind of like really slow turtle strats where they're just like, oh, we'll just hold on to the Aegis until we get the next Aegis, because then they're never going to want to force a team fight. So it's going to prevent that from happening. Hopefully a little bit less stale games in the late game. Team AoE bounty for kills of 2 heroes. These are changed. The way this works, if you guys don't know what Team AoE bounty is, they added this maybe like a year and a half ago from my estimation. I don't know exactly if that's right, but basically if you're around a kill when it happens, you get gold from it without having to get a kill. You don't even have to get an assist, actually. If you're just near somebody who dies, you get a little bit of gold. And you can notice this in the early game, but it is actually pretty significant. Because what would happen before is the really hard supports like Crystal Maiden, they would never want to take last hits or kills, and then they would be poor as hell for the entire game. So now it's just like a small incentive to support and to play full support. So that way you don't take all of the gold and stuff. And you can still get items. So it's not very much, but as you can see, we can do a little bit of math here. For 2 heroes around, it's generally, by the way, it's about the same bounty, no matter how many heroes you have around, it's just split accordingly. So if we do some very short math, let's say we're a level 3 hero, it used to be 9 times level, which will say you're level 3, so that's, what, 27 gold plus 95, so you get a little bit over 100 gold just by being around a hero that dies. And now it's going to be 12 times the level plus 125. So this actually looks like it gives more gold to support, is what it does. Unless I'm crazy. You get an extra plus 30, plus you get 3 extra per level. So if you were a level 3 hero, you'd end up getting 39 extra gold. That's pretty cool. So that's going to encourage roaming and ganking and supporting a little bit more. Because that's still really good gold. 125, that's insane. Plus your level times your level. That's like half of a kill right there just by supporting. That's really cool. For 3, it is also buff, so 20 extra here and 2 times the level here added. That's really cool. Killer bounty level multiplier increase from 200 plus 5 times the level to 200 plus 9 plus level. I wonder if this is trying to slightly encourage people, and this is why this is cool, why it's slightly encouraging people to go for kills more often than just farming a lot, because if you make kills happen, your supports are going to get a lot of gold, or at least pretty significant amounts. That's like 30% more gold. That's pretty huge. That's a very large increase. Yeah, that's 30% across the board. 30% more gold will be gotten by your supports by being around kills, or anybody being around kills, which is cool. It should encourage people at the pro level to possibly roam and gank more, which is good because sometimes games can be a little stale. Whether or not we'll see how long it takes for people to do this, but maybe it'll give them slightly more incentivization. Is that a word? I don't think it's a word. This one I don't completely understand. Total XP required for level 7 decreased from 27 to 26, and level 8 from 35 to 32, and I believe it still requires the total to reach level 9. So this means that it's easier to get to level 8, but it still takes as long to get to level 9. I'm not entirely sure why they're doing this. Maybe so that the heroes that require more EXP to be useful, and by that I mean heroes like Lion, Shadow Shaman, pretty much any solo mid hero generally, they can get to their strength points, which would be level 7, level 8. That's usually a pretty good place. By level 7 and 8, you have your ultimate, you have one skill completely maxed out, and you have a couple skill points in something else. So if you get there a little bit faster, your hero is going to be slightly stronger. So I guess in some ways we could even argue this is an anti-carry nerf as well, because the heroes that are the strongest at level 7 and level 8 is usually casters. Carries, yeah, they have better skill points, but usually it's in stuff like Mana Break or Time Lock or, you know, abilities that are really good with gold as well. Whereas supports that have stuns, they really just need the skill points. They don't need the gold, they just need the skill points really. So I would kind of look at this as a buff to very EXP dependent heroes that maybe don't see as much play. Something like that. I don't know how big of a difference this is. This one looks significant. Level 8 should be 300, but I mean that's like 10% less EXP, approximately, a little bit less than that. But it's still pretty cool. Okay, add a new loading screen. So sexy. Oops. Chrome, you're freaking out. It does this when I have XSplit open, but there it is. It looks beautiful. I think we're only going to see this if you guys play Warcraft 3 Dota, unfortunately. This is a staple of Warcraft 3 Dota. When a new patch would come out, you'd have all these cool heroes. This is Doom. This is Storm Spirit. This is Bloodseeker. This looks like Queen of Pain. This is Sven. This is Sand King. It looks like Juggernaut. This is Pit Lord. That kind of looks like Viper. I don't know who the other... Maybe it's supposed to be Visage or something. Yeah, I guess that's supposed to be Visage because those look like gargoyles. I think that's actually Visage. That's kind of cool. Or Visage or whatever. And it says, congratulations to IG who won. That was cool. Alright, random draft mode increased from 20 to 22. I think this is good to add some variety. Sometimes there's RD modes that don't have enough heroes in it. Recipe items no longer sell for 80%, they now sell for 50%. That way people, I don't know. I don't know if this is needed, but it's not really that big of a deal. Especially in Dota 2 because you can sell very easily if you make a mistake now. But that would suck to mess it up. Added 1 second cooldown to place an observer in Sentry Wards because sometimes people would place 2 on the same spawn. That's obviously a waste. Fix various item sell costs. That's probably in relation to this 80%. Tooltip issues, Roshan turn rate increased, and fix bug abuses. I think his turn rate's a lot slower in Dota 1 than it is in Dota 2. Fix the bug that could cause Brewmaster. You could probably do something like run circles around Roshan and get him to constantly turn and not hit you while somebody else DPSs. That's my guess. Some bug. Alright, they added a new agility here. I'll try to go over this quickly because I looked him over last and I should generally have vague ideas of his skill understandings. He's an agility hero. He's Scourge. Here's his agility gain, or his int gain, his strength gain, his agility gain. His agility here and his agility gain is pretty shit, which means that there's a decent chance that he won't be very good as a DPS hero, but we'll see. Alright, Flux engulfs an enemy unit with swirling volatile energy for 6 seconds, slowing its movement speed by 50%, dealing damage over time if it's alone. Only if it's alone. The effect is muted if there are nearby enemy unit within 225 AoE. So this spell is really good against heroes that are by themselves. If it's in a team fight, it's not going to be as useful. I don't know what it gets muted down to, but effects stack directly with multiple instances. Each instance operates independently. I didn't read that last time. So it lasts for 6 seconds. The duration is 6. The cooldown is 20. I'm not sure why it says this part. I don't completely understand the skill, but it can do pretty good damage. 6 times 6 is 360, or 36 times 10 obviously is 360, and it does a really good slow. The AoE is tiny as well, relatively small. Okay, it's a nuke. Is it just enemy heroes or enemy units? Okay. Magnetic field destroys space, generates a field that gives you 100% evasion and bonus attack speed to allied units and buildings within. So you can use this, you can cast this on a turret, and you'll get a lot of evasion on the turret. It will be unkillable for, unless you have a monkey. I don't know if Monkey King Bar works on buildings or not, but bonus attack speed to allied units and buildings within. So you could use this in team fights if you're trying to focus somebody down. Put this down, you'll be evasive and also attack really fast. 80% bonus, or 80 attack speed bonus here. Cooldown is 50, pretty high. Mana cost, cast range is also quite high as well. So cool. You have to remain within the area to get the bonus. Spark Wraith. Summons the Spark Wraith that takes 3 seconds to fully materialize, haunts the targeted area until an enemy comes within its range, and then fuses itself into him, dealing magic damage. Activation delay is 3 seconds. Duration lasts up to 50 seconds before expiring or when it finds an enemy. And AoE is 375. It does a bunch of damage. So this is kind of like the old Shrion Protector Owl mechanic. You would put an owl in the jungle and then you would activate it, and if somebody ran past it, it would do a stun and nuke on you. Except this only does a stun, but the important thing is the cooldown is tiny, 4 seconds. Cast range is huge, and they sit there for 50 seconds. So you could very, very easily stack this in the jungle somewhere. I assume this works, because it's towards closest unit that's in a AoE at 400 movement speed. So the movement speed is actually quite slow. Once you get boots, everybody's around 350, so this is really not that much faster than that, but I assume it's going to hit you no matter what. So essentially what's going on is that it's going to be kind of like a Techie's landmine in a way. It's going to be able to create zone control. You could stack up a lot of these with 50 mana. That's very, very easy to spam. It won't be very good in big team fights because there's going to be so many units that'll probably be, oh, it's closest unit. Okay, you could actually control it, put it right on top of a guy. It should be able to hit him for 300 damage, but oh, I'm sorry, it has an activation delay of 3 seconds. So it's going to be really tough to use this in team fights, but it's more of like a trap thing. At the very least, you could rune control with it. I assume they'll give vision. I don't know for a fact, but you can also kind of put these on the sides of your lane to make sure that you don't get ganked. But primarily, I think you could use this for a really cool trap mechanic. And his ulti, Tempest Double. This spell seems OP. By vibrating, that's not important. You can create a perfect electrical incarnation of yourself for 20 seconds at the cost of health and mana. The incarnation can use any spells or items that he has and spawns with his health and mana after the cast. So when you cast this, you lose 30% of your HP and mana, which is huge, but then you have a duplicate of your hero, which I assume can die, and if he dies, nothing happens to your primary, but you can cast the damn same spells as you, which is insane. It sounds very OP. We'll have to see how it works out. I'm sure they've bug tested this a lot and kind of tested how things work out. It looks very visibly different for allies. Can't copy ward, smoke, or refresher orb. That means that you can buy a Dagon, you can use this spell to double yourself, and then you can use 2 Dagons on a dude. 2. You could have arcane boots. You could double yourself and then arcane yourself twice. That's also, there's very, very unlimited possibilities with this. It looks pretty interesting. Possibly very OP, but we'll see. You'd have to farm items first. I don't know if you can transfer bottle or not. I don't know if you can transfer the items. I'm guessing you can't transfer the items because that would sound really, really overpowered, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Add a new, okay, so that's the agility hero. Add a new int hero. This is a Frostworm. Movement speed is very low. Starting armor very low. I didn't point that out for the agility hero, but I think he has 0 starting armor and his movement speed pretty low as well. But yeah, 0 starting armor. The Winter Worm, attack damage, attack range, intelligence, strength, agility is an int hero. Alright, Arctic Burn imbues you with a deathly chill, causing you to gain a bonus attack range and flying movement for 6 seconds, which means that you can fly over cliffs. Your attack places an Arctic Burn on enemies that slows them and burns a portion of their health away. Debuffs cannot be refreshed on enemies that it hits. That's cool. So that means every time you attack with it, it lasts for 4 seconds, and you can't just attack 2 seconds later to continue going like a simple Venomancer poison attack, or it's another good example. Pretty much any poison over time damage. Duration is, oh, I'm sorry, it's 6 seconds. Excuse me. Jesus, that's good. That is so good. God, how is that not OP? I really don't know. The cooldown is huge, 60, 50, 40, 30, which means that it drains 6% of current HP. Oh, current HP. Okay, alright. Oh god, I thought that was max. I was going to say that would be ridiculous. This makes it less OP. That means that it's better when you're at full HP. It does more damage when you're at full HP than low HP. It does the slow, and it also gives you insane attack range. So it's basically kind of like, makes you kind of a siege unit, to be honest. You get huge attack range. You probably just want to attack everybody in the team fight once because you can't refresh. There's no point to focus on the same guy endlessly. So you'd probably sit back and attack each guy a couple times. That would be the best thing you could do, and they would lose 6% of their current HP per second. That means they would go from 100 to 94. There would be resistance after that, I believe. Not lethal does not count as damage. So I guess that's HP removal then. I'm not sure exactly what type of damage it is, but it's basically you'd remove 6%, and then you'd remove 6% of the 94, and then you'd remove 6% of whatever the 6% of 94 is. So it's not directly, it's not just 36% of your HP. It's not that simple. It's going to be less than that. I don't know what the current, I'd have to do some math, but I'll skip that now. Sounds like a very, very good ability, and it lets you fly, so it's kind of like a ranged siege dragon mode thing. Splinter Blast fires a passive shard of ice at an enemy unit. Upon impact, it gains new life and splits off into active shards that deal heavy damage and slow to all other enemy units. An initial target is unaffected, so it kind of shoots out a missile, I'm guessing. Hits a target, splits off, and then does damage to the targets it splits off on. So split AoE is 500, secondary target damage is the damage it actually does. Secondary target slow 25% for 4 seconds, and it takes 1.5 seconds to arrive at the destination. The cast range is huge, 1200. So this guy really seems like a very ranged hero. It's kind of like Sniper, but a caster, which sounds kind of cool. Cooldown is 8, mana cost is relatively high. I don't remember what his int gain is. It's okay, I guess. Alright, Cold Embrace. This spell looks really cool. Reduces an ally's body temperature. Basically, it makes them immune, blocks all physical damage for the duration, and it regenerates a lot. So basically, 4 seconds, HP regeneration is 20 plus 3, 4, 5, 6 of max HP per second. That means as an ally is getting destroyed by the Phantom Assassin, you can cast Cold Embrace on your ally, only ally, and then he becomes invulnerable to PA's damage for 4 seconds because PA can only do physical damage, excluding the dagger, of course. And then you can sit there and regen for up to 6% of max HP times 4, so that is what, 24. So they would get 24% of their HP back, plus 20, plus 80. It sounds really cool, especially if somebody is getting focused on. They still can take magic damage. Keep that in mind. It's only physical. They can still take magic damage. They can still take HP removal. There's lots of ways to do damage to the guy, but you'll give him 4 seconds of invulnerability. The cast range is huge. Cooldown is 14, and mana cost is 75. And oh yeah, by the way, this disables your hero for the duration of the debuff. It's not just like an OP, you can't die for 4 seconds. It's your hero can't do anything for 4 seconds, but you won't die to physical damage. So definitely going to be abusable, and noobs are going to mess it up constantly. They're going to like cast it on their carry as he initiates and bad stuff like that. It's going to be hilarious, but it sounds really cool. It's kind of similar to Shallow Grave in a way. I would love to see like a team with Dazzle as well as this guy in the same team, just saving everybody's life. I know the montages are coming. Alright, Winter's Curse. Strikes the battlefield with a maddening chill, cursing a targeted enemy unit and freezing it in place. All of the target's nearby allied units will go into an uncontrollable frenzy, attacking the frozen ally for a short duration. This is like a reverse Berserker's Call on Axe. So essentially what's going to happen is, the range by the way is 800, so it's quite long. Duration is 2.5 to 3, and the AoE is 350. By the way, you get credit for kills done this way. It does not affect targets. Magic immune allies. Okay, so if you're magic immune, this doesn't work on you. But basically, you wait till your opponents are grouped up, and then you cast it on the squishy hero that's standing next to them all, that's next to the hard carry, and then the hard carry and all the other people next to him are forced to attack the squishy hero for 2.5 seconds at base. And if they kill the support hero, then you get a kill for it. So it's essentially a reverse Berserker's Call that you can use offensively as a disable. But it looks really cool. I love that the range is long, so you can cast this from a long ways away. I actually think out of the two heroes, this one sounds the coolest. He makes the most sense in my brain. The other one sounds like I don't actually know how to play him correctly. I'd probably have to let a lot of other pro players experiment a lot and figure out what's the best skill build. But this guy is pretty simple. He's a very long range hero. He has some disables. He has this Splinter Blast thing. The Cold Embrace is pretty cool as well. I'd probably pick up one Cold Embrace and then put skill points into, I don't know, maybe Arctic Burn. Not quite sure. Probably Arctic Burn. I would maybe max Arctic Burn first. Kind of hard to say. Maybe it'd be Splinter Blast. I don't know. Kind of depends what you want to do with it. I'd probably do Splinter Blast max first, to be honest. God, that range is so huge. Anyways, I don't know. I think he's a cool hero. Sounds really cool. Frostworm. Yeah, that's him. Alright, so now we are done with the new heroes. There is one new item later on down, but primarily we're going to be looking at hero buffs and nerfs from here on out. So this is very, very important stuff. This should make you feel like Christmas whenever you read this stuff. But let's talk about Alchemist. Alchemist, one of the lowest win percentages in the game right now. Acid spray damage per second is increased. So as you can see, it scales better. Level 1 is now doing an extra 6 damage, which is a huge buff to the level 1 acid spray. And the mana cost has now scaling from low to high, which is good, because why would you ever cast a 160 mana spell that only does 8 physical damage per second in AoE? I think it's composite, actually. I might be wrong. I can't remember. Chemical Rage base attack time decreased. This means that he now attacks much faster using his ulti, especially at level 3. Look at this. This is a massive difference between 1.0 and 1.15. It depends on how the attack speed is calculated, but your base attack time, you want it to be much lower. Very, very nice buff to Alchemist. Means that he can become even more of a he's already like a DPS monster late game, but getting there is the hard part, is why most people think he's a shit hero. Goblin's Greed counter duration increased from 20 to 25 seconds, meaning Goblin Greed's better. Also, the bonus gold scaling is adjusted from 2, 4, 6 to 8, and it's now going to plus 2, 2, 4, 6, 8 plus 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 plus 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think this plus 2 is the extra gold that you get every pickup. This means that now, as you get to a later Goblin's Greed, if you have 4 Goblin's Greed, that means you're guaranteed to get 4 extra gold every last hit you get, instead of just 2. Before it was kind of like a chain thing. If you get a big chain, you increase your gold by a lot. Now you could actually just last hit a little bit quicker. But you can also cap out higher, I think, is the way that this is working. Something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly how it works. I think it used to cap at 10, I believe. Now it's going to cap at 14, I think. Unstable Concoction max damage increased from 340 at max to 360, so very, very slight buff there. Most importantly, though, it no longer displays the countdown numbers to enemies. That means they don't know how long you've been charging for, and it's not going to be super easy for them to throw the stun when you're low and get the disable off, which is very important. I think this is a large reason why Alchemist fails. In addition to noobs not knowing how to... It's not super easy to understand how to use the hero, and they would probably mess up a lot. I personally don't think Alchemist is that bad of a hero. I mean, there's better heroes that you could draft as a carry, but in terms of pubs, I think he could be utilized. And most importantly, his stun now affects the 175 area around where it explodes. This is massive, because the stun duration is something like 4 or something. We'll go check it out quick. Go, 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 go. Play Dota.com. Oh god, everything's so large. Heroes. We'll go really quick. Internet, why are you going slow? Alchemist, 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 Alchemist. You are here somewhere, but I can't see it. There you are. So let's see what the stun duration is on Unstable Concoction right now. The stun is 4 seconds maximum. That means that you can now do a 4-second AoE stun for 360 damage. 4 seconds is insane. AoE, even more insane. This is like an AoE roar, essentially. So you pretty much... You're going to see combos including involving Vacuum and Unstable Concoction, most likely. You could just see it normally with a lot of other stuff, but try to aim for the AoE primarily. I mean, that's amazing. 4 seconds stun on 2 heroes is sick. That's better than Shackle Shot. It includes when it explodes on Alchemist. I didn't read that before. So that means you could stun your allies with this and kill them. Don't grieve. Alright, anti-mage nerfs. Movement speed decreased from 320 to 315. This is a big deal because he requires himself to be fast to chase after people and to continue to harass them. Blink animation time is increased from 0.33 to 0.4. It means it takes longer for him to blink, which is good because things like Cold Snap or Chain Stuns are going to be more likely to kill him. And this is a joke. Legs decreased from 2.222 to 1, 1.5, 1.8, 1.9. This is a reference to the no leg strat. Axe, Berserker's Call bonus armor increased from 30 to 40. This is insane. It's so much armor. He's like invincible now with that. Battle Hunger Slow decreased from 10 to 8%, but it does increase his movement speed from 4 to 8% per enemy, which I think is actually a kind of a cool buff. Make Axe a little bit faster, which is good because making him completely reliant on Blink Dagger, in my opinion, is kind of not very fun. And should make my awesome Aghanim Scepter build a little bit more useful. Counter Helix damage increased from this, so scales does a little bit does better late game as you max it out, just slightly. 50 more physical damage. Ancient Apparition Chilling Touch now deals bonus damage. Uses a charge when attacking creeps. Okay, cool, so you can now kill creeps with Chilling Touch. That's really cool. Didn't do that to heroes before. The AoE is increased by a bit. The damage increased from 40 to 70 to now 50 to 80. 10 all-around buff. The duration reduced from 40 to 30, and it's no longer, Ice Blast is no longer dispelled by the fountain. It means his ulti will not be stopped by Ice Blast, I believe. Which, did that actually, I guess that must have happened before. I thought that it didn't work in the fountain, to be honest, but I must be wrong. So anyways, Chilling Touch can now be used to push creeps, push waves. This gives Ancient Apparition basically some possible pushing, which we may see. It basically would give you some magic damage attack. You could also use it to Roshan as well, which would be very, very good. Especially if you have like 5 heroes there, and you give them all Chilling Touch level 1, then they all do 80 free damage. That's a lot of damage. Bane Elemental, Fiend's Grip, Aghanim's duration increased from 6 to 7. That is insane. Feeble damage reduction increased from 25 to 100 to 30 to 120. And you can no longer dispel Enfeeble by Manta BKB or anything else. Cool. Making Enfeeble better, which I think is smart. Batrider, cast animation time decreased from 0.3 to 0.2. This is good for chasing. That means it won't take as much time to cast Sticky Napalm while you're chasing. Strength growth is massively increased. 0.7 is pretty significant addition. The turn rate is improved from 0.4 to 1. And the Firefly duration increased from 15 to 18 seconds. Firefly damage trail no longer instantly disappears when Batrider dies. Cool. Batrider buffs. One of the least played heroes in the game. I believe he's bottom 3. Bloodseeker, Bloodbath Death Detection AoE for enemy heroes increased from 225 to 325. This is the area that would allow him to life gain, basically, for enemy heroes that he didn't kill. Blood Rage bonus base damage from this to this. Blood Rage bonus base damage. So this is the silence that you cast on people, so you can get up to 120% now. Thirst AoE from this to... Oh, okay, that's really cool. So now Thirst, no matter what level it is, that's the ability that lets you find enemy units that are low. It's always at max range. Always. That means that you're pretty much always going to be able to see low HP heroes using Bloodseeker. The movement speed bonus is slightly buffed as well, so even though you can see them, you'll still not be very fast. But this is very cool, because this means that you can actually go gank other sidelines a little bit earlier now, because you don't have to, like, I don't know, you don't have to have a level 4 Thirst to be able to do this. And I dare say that you could arguably maybe even leave Thirst at level 3, but you'd probably still max that anyways. Thirst HP percentage detection rescaled from constant 40% to... Oh, okay, cool. So that means as you max out, Thirst got a lot better, basically. It's not as good at level 1 because it won't trigger as early, but you can get it higher now, up to 50%, which is quite significant. In a team fight, there's always going to be somebody below 50% usually, and that will give you that extra buff. So pretty cool. Bloodseeker buffs makes him a lot faster. Thirst is better. Blood Rage can do more damage to you, and you have a better chance to heal. That's pretty insane movement speed. Alright, Bristleblack. Quill Spray, damage cap increase from 220 to 400. Bristleblack's not in Dota 2 yet. Warpath damage per stack increased from 10, 15 to 20 to 20, 25, 30. This means he does more damage. Oh god, somebody's talking to me on Skype. I'm gonna go do not disturb for a bit. Sorry about that, guys. Fix how Quill Spray damage threshold works. It will now activate Quill Spray on the instant of damage when its threshold is breached, rather than the one after that occurrence. Alright, cool. I was not aware of that. But basically it does some AoE damage. I used to call him the PP Pig, so I used to play him in Dota 1 against, you know, and this is unranked game, so there's a lot of noobs sometimes. It was very easy to get people to rage quit, because once you fed Bristleback, he was unkillable if you knew what you were doing, and he could actually do pretty good damage. Okay, Broodmother. Spawn Spider's Spiderite bounty increased, so that means your spawn Spiderlings give a lot more money. In-cap Bite no longer gives bonus damage, but it does increase the miss rate by quite a bit, up to 40% at max, which is pretty significant miss rate. It's quite huge. Double Edge now deals this damage in 190 AoE around the target. Pretty cool for Centaur. You can do, it's like a big nuke that does damage to Centaur as well, but pretty good pickup. Chaos Knight's stun no longer is partially undodgeable. It's a normal projectile with 1000 speed. It was extremely fast before. It's still going to be fast, but it's going to be easier to dodge, which I think is actually a very, very good buff, because things like Phase Shift, you could dodge it in Dota 1 with Autocast, but they removed Autocast, so you can't do that anymore. Holy Persuasion no longer has the ability to teleport allied units. This is how Chen used to be before, but this is basically a nerf to Chen. Test of Faith grants you secondary ability to teleport allied units. So before, Test of Faith is the nuke that does damage to your opponents. It used to be able to send your allies back. It became Holy Persuasion just to make the hero slightly better or something, because they didn't really synergize. It was like, wait, why is my damage nuke saving my allies? I want to use that to do damage to allies. And they're like, okay, you're right. We'll put on Holy Persuasion, so then a Holy Persuasion can send people back. But this is going to make you choose. Do I want to send an ally back, because it's one of the best skills in the game, to be able to send people back after 3 seconds, or do I want to do my big damage nuke? Now it's a trade-off. You have to decide. We'll most likely see it be saved in big team fights for when they want to send somebody back, and in ganks they'll use it offensively. That's pretty much how it's going to work. So instant teleport for persuaded creeps. Yeah, this is all the secondary ability. So it's basically like the same ability. The delay is the same as how it was in the Holy Persuasion. So, alright, Clinks. By the way, this also means that your send back delay is going to be quite low early on, because once you're level 7, you want to have Holy Persuasion maxed out so you can have 3 creeps. That means that the delay is only going to be 5 seconds at that point. So it should be easier in the early game to get kills. Holy Persuasion is not as good. 3 seconds is really where you need it to be. Alright, Clinks. Strafe attack speed bonus increase from 110 to 130. Buff to Clinks. Clockwork, lots of buffs to him. Strength growth increase, that means he gets more HP over time. Battery assault damage interval improved from 0.75 to 0.7. Power cogs damage and mana increase from 60, 90, 120, 150 to 80, 120, 160, 200. This means power cogs do more damage and more damage. It's actually becoming a very respectable new 200 mana drain and damage is insane actually. Battery assault does damage faster. Power cogs duration increased. Wow, up to 8 seconds. That's freaking insane. You can cog somebody in and they can't move for 8 seconds. They really buffed the crap out of cogs. But most importantly, it previously did not trigger or burn mana and HP when somebody force staffs over it. Did I read this wrong? Not triggering and burning mana HP when somebody force staffs. I don't know if this means that you cannot force staff out of cogs before. That was the main reason why Clockwork stopped getting played, in my opinion, was because people would just rush one force staff on the team, and whoever got cogged in, you force staff them out, and then Clockwork's like, well, I just initiated on somebody and now I can't kill them. So it was very frustrating. So I think this means that force staff may not work on it. I think that's the buff that Clockwork needs myself. The damage, the HP buff, as well as the damage power cogs and the duration is all very nice for him as well. So Crystal Maiden, freezing field duration increased from 4 to 7 seconds. That is her ultimate. Her ultimate is usable if you're in dire situations and you have no cooldowns on anything else. That's probably the best thing about her ulti, is I'd recommend using it when you think you're going to die, guaranteed. Darkseer movement speed decreased from 305. He needed nerfs because he's one of the most OP heroes in the game. Vacuum cooldown increased from 16 to 19. The cast range has decreased from 550 to 500. Keep in mind these are all slight nerfs, but it's still going to go towards a hero to hurt him. The AoE is now decreased as well. It goes down to 550. So basically all around, Vacuum slightly nerfed because that was pretty much the most OP spell he has. Then Vacuum also no longer can pull invulnerable units. So units... Oh! That means that he doesn't work with Naga's ulti anymore. You cannot ulti with Naga, Vacuum everybody, and then Black Hole. So you no longer can use that combo as easily, which is very good. It should have been like that. At least force people to cast a Vacuum when the ulti isn't on, essentially. It didn't do that before, though. Dazzle, huge buffs to him. Poison Touch level 4 cooldown decreased from 9 to 7. Poison Touch, I think, is one of the scariest chase abilities in the game. It does very little damage, but the fact that it's now on 7 seconds cooldown is insane. It was already really fast at 9, and you can spam this so many times in a team fight now to actually be a semi-decent offensive threat. The slow is seriously amazing. So big reason to put it from level 3 Poison Touch to level 4 here. Very cool. Shadow Wave AoE increased from 170 to 185. This is the heal, so it does more damage. Disruptor Static Storm max damage increased from 170 to 250 to 170 to 270. This is one buff that everybody's a little confused about because generally everybody believes that Disruptor's Glimpse is too good. Glimpse is probably too good. All of his other spells probably needed a slight buff. So in a way, Static Storm max damage increase, that's good. But either way, Disruptor doesn't see that much play, and he's not top banner pick anyways. It's kind of like everybody knows that Glimpse is really good, but nobody picks the hero very often, which is weird, but that's how it is. Doombringer, Devour Creep level restriction removed. That means you can eat a Centaur at level 1 if you want to get the Stomp. I'm trying to think of a really big creep that you would want early, and maybe like the mana burn creep would be good. 50 mana for 100 mana burn. You could grab that earlier in lane. You could grab probably the Satyr Regen Aura would be the best one that you could snag at level 1 maybe, just because it would allow you to have 3 HP regen per second. That's pretty good. The Shockwave I think is only 100 mana for 125 damage, which is not terrible, but it's not the best thing ever. The cooldown is also scales differently. It is higher at level 1 and lower at level 4. Okay? I think the reason they did this is to force you to actually level up. Before, it would just give you cooldown and it would give you the creep level restriction, but that's now removed. So the gold is, okay, it's worse at level 1. I think this is very smart. They made Devour worse at level 1. But that's important because you can get any creep now with it. So that way people won't just get one level of it and it'll be super good. The gold will be decreased. it'll still be the same at max level if you put skill points into it. The mana cost is also scaling down towards level 4, so this really encourages you to max out Devour. Level Death bonus damage now deals 20% of max HP instead of a fixed amount. This is very, very good for anybody that's against the Doombringer in lane, because Level Death, when you'd hit that level, it would give you 250 pure damage. So if they were level 5, for example, if you had like a level 2 Level Death, it would do 100 damage plus 250 pure. That's I think it was I think it was like 150 maybe. I don't remember what it did at level 2. It was like 150 damage plus 250 pure. In 2 nukes, you would die if you're a squishy hero. Now it does 20% of max HP, which means it's suckier earlier in the game, but that means it's still really good late game. 20% of max HP is insane. You can cast that every like 7 seconds or something. I don't know what the cooldown, it's around there, I think. 20% of max HP is actually very, very good. That's good damage output, especially on tanky heroes. Imagine that. Dragon Knight doesn't have a hood. He's got a BKB, but his BKB runs out, and they start hitting him with level deaths to remove 20% of his HP. I mean, if you have 2,000 HP, which is not that much of an amount, and you deal 20% of your max HP, that's a 400 damage nuke. That's insane. I assume that's a magic nuke and not necessarily a I don't think it's pure damage because it does not say pure. But either way, I think that's pretty cool. It makes Doombringer more effective late game, which I think he needs in some ways, because before you would have to get that from farm. And this could maybe make him a little bit less farm oriented. Level death damage increase from the base amounts as well also goes up. So you could do 275 damage plus 20% of max HP. You're talking like a 650 damage nuke on a 2000 HP hero late game. Guaranteed. 650 damage. That's freaking insane. Really cool. I like this buff. Scorched Earth damage per heal increased as well, so he can heal a bit better. Dragon Knight, armor decreased by 1. Dragon Blood armor bonus increased, so this means that his base armor is lower. It forces you to get more Dragon Blood, up to 12, which is pretty crazy. Elder Dragon Form levels 2 and 3 no longer gives bonus damage, and Elder Dragon Form, wow, I didn't even read this last night. The splash area is rescaled slightly. Okay, so it was like a splash. There's like splash circles. If you're right next to the target, there's more 100% splash. The 75% splash is also larger, and the 50% splash is the same. So it's basically they increase his splash damage. Draw Ranger, Frost Arrow slow increase from 50 to 60 at level 4. Marksmanship level 3, agility bonus increase from 45 to 60. That's insane. Your level 3 ulti gives you 60 agility. True Shot aura damage bonus increase from 7, 14, 21, 28 to 8, 16, 24, 32. So more damage for her, and Silence cooldown also decreased. So major buffs for Draw Ranger. She should be a little bit better. Earthshaker, Enchant Totem cooldown decreased from 7 to 6 seconds to make Earthshaker slightly better. As the support hero, he's not played at all right now, except very rarely, so they had to buff him slightly. Ember Spirit, armor is decreased by 1. The Remnant recharge time increased from 30 to 35 seconds. I believe that's his ulti, and the damage per instance from this to this. So it's worse early, and it takes longer to recharge. I don't know, I haven't played Ember Spirit more than like 2 or 3 times, but I heard he's very OP, so not quite sure. Enigma, Malefice damage reduced, 30, 45, 65, 80 to 40, 40, 65, 65. So that means he does less damage with this Malefice, just slightly less. Midnight Pulse cast range is increased, which I think is pretty cool. And Black Hole mana cost has gone up, which may force people to now go for possibly more than just a Soul Ring, because sometimes I have mana problems on Enigma with just Soul Ring. Maybe you'd have to get 1 Soul Ring for sure to be able to afford the mana. I actually play Enigma a lot, so but I like the Midnight Pull cast range increase. Pulse, you can cast it now farther away from your opponents. You don't have to be like right in front of them to cast Midnight Pulse, which might mean better chances of being able to pulse before black holes. I think that's definitely going to encourage that. Faceless Void, Time Lock deals twice as much damage when it procs in Chronosphere, and he can no longer be frozen by any Chronosphere. And they're talking about other Faceless Voids if that situation ends up happening, or a Rubik. So Rubik stealing Chronosphere and then Chronosphere and back won't work anymore. Fury and movement speed is slightly decreased, which I think is a valid nerf. Most importantly though, the Force of Nature's Treant's magic resistance is decreased from 33 to 20. This means that in terms of pushing, Furion's not going to be as good against a hero like Rubik or Lina or whatever. You'll throw nukes through, you're going to do more damage to his Treants. So his pushing against enemy heroes is going to be less effective, which is probably a good thing. Goblin Shredder, Strength Growth is reduced, and Chakram, which is his ulti, moves 20% slower. Guardian Wisp, Overcharge HP MP cost over time increased from 2.5 to 3.5. That means it's more expensive to use Overcharge. Tether Regeneration Transfer now heals the tethered unit at 1.5 times the rate of Wisp. I believe this means that Previously, it was 1 times the rate of Wisp. Whatever Guardian Wisp regens would go to your ally at the same rate, but now it gives your ally more. So if you heal yourself 400 HP, you should heal your ally 600. I believe that's the difference here, unless I'm unsure about the actual numbers. Gyrocopter movement speed increased from 305 to 315. Pretty big movement speed increase, which is good because you need Rocket Barrage to be next to somebody. Flat Cannon AoE increased, even bigger AoE, and Call Down AoE also increased. So Flat Cannon's better, he's slightly faster. Still kind of a weird here though. Huskar Burning Spears duration increased from 6 to 7, so more damage done with Burning Spears. Inner Vitality can now be cast on magic immune targets. That's your ulti. Oh, I'm sorry, that's your first skill, your heal, which is good because you previously you couldn't heal BKB, you couldn't BKB and then heal yourself, which is very good. Life Break Aghanim's cooldown decreased from 24, 16, 8 to 4. It means no matter what level you pick this up, the Aghanim Scepter, it's always going to be 4 seconds, which is very good actually because, look at this, why would I want an Aghanim Scepter to make the cooldown for 24? Like, who gives a crap? 24 seconds, why would I spend 4,000 gold on that? This is cool though. If you can pick this up at any level that you're ahead of your opponents, you could ulti a guy and kill him, wait a couple seconds, and ulti the next guy. Invoker base damage decreased by 4, which will give him a little bit less laning presence, which is good. Jakiro facing direction now more accurately matches his turn rate. Just a visual change. Liquid Fire AoE increased from 175 to 300, so that means the passive that shoots fire sometimes and reduces attack speed is increased in AoE, which is good. Ice Path is reworked. It's a huge buff. After a short delay, the Path of Thin Ice is created in front of Jakiro, just like before, but now anyone that touches that path gets frozen until the path disappears. Deals damage to anyone it affects. So, I assume, I don't know how long the path stays out though. That's the only thing that's a little confusing. Okay, I think it's just done like this. That way, you can't like get an ice path under you and blink away. If the ice path is there, you will get frozen. And I think it's still there for the same period of time, like this very short 0.4 seconds, something like that. Well, I guess this is the path duration, up to 2.2 seconds, but I'm guessing the path duration is the same as the freeze amount, something like that. It's not quite clear, but I assume that's how it works. So basically, ice path is easier to land now. If you throw it on a bunch of heroes and they try to walk through it, or if they're close to it, it'll just nail them, I think. AoE's 150 damage. It does damage now, 100 damage, and the range is still really high. Mana cost is the same, and the cooldown, I believe, is still the same. So I'm guessing this just means that it's a little bit easier to land. I don't know how long it sits there. I'm guessing it's this, but and I'm guessing the stun duration. I wish it also said stun duration as well under it. Juggernaut base attack time is decreased. This means he gets a slight buff to his attacks. And Omni Slash now kills creeps and neutrals in one hit. This does not include pair-controlled units or ancients, which is important because otherwise you'd be able to like Omni Slash a Chen and you would lose all of this stuff. So what this basically means is now that you can have a better chance to Omni Slash late game, this will make his Omni Slash better late game when you have a shitload of hits and there's creeps around. You won't be forced to just like Omni Slash and waste it and maybe kill a couple creeps. Because now if it happens to use one of the slashes on a creep, the creep will die, and then you'll go on and maybe kill 2 or more creeps, and all of a sudden the creeps are all dead and you can just Omni Slash your hero. So this is a nice buff to Juggernaut late game, which is very good, because late game Juggernaut is pretty crap with his ulti. Keeper of the Light, Chakra mana cost is rescaled, so it's less early, same late. Mana Leak cooldown decreased, Illuminate cast range is changed, and the max hit distance is actually increased, which I find weird. Everybody's a little surprised about Keeper of the Light buffs because he's already a reasonably okay hero. Crobulus armor increased by 1. She's not played very often, and she's a little bit too squishy early, so armor would help, especially with harassing. Kunkka's base strength is increased by 3. His ghost ship cooldown is decreased by a lot, which I really like, especially whenever I play Kunkka, I'm always afraid to throw the boat. And if the cooldown is a lot lower, 60 seconds is so much less than 90. Same with 40 versus 40. It's so much less. I'll just say, screw it, I'm throwing a boat. And if you just throw the boat, like I never trust my torrents, and if I could just trust my torrents and throw a boat every time and not have to worry about it, I can be like, whatever, I want a boat for 40 seconds. That's gonna make people a lot more incentivized to just throw it when it feels right, or maybe just land the boats. You never know. So, and the AoE's also increased a little bit as well. Legion Commander. This is one of the new heroes that's not in Dota 2. He's actually very, very fresh. Fixed overwhelming odds, giving 6% instead of 9% movement per hero. Oh, so he's getting too much movement speed. Adds bonus summoned unit illusion damage reduced from 50 to 25. I think this is, you could cast this on illusions and get way too much damage, I'm guessing, is what's happening. Press the attack cooldown is rescaled. Diabolic Edict now uses Leshrac cast time. This is a big nerf. This is why I made it orange. It means that now whenever you cast Edict, which is the little explosion thing, you have to cast, which is the same time as Split Earth and Lightning. And this is the reason that Leshrac was never played originally, was because to get a combo off on somebody, you'd have to be like, Split Earth, bam! And you have to be like, Diabolic Edict, ugh! And then you have to be like, Lightning, bam! And that's like 3.5 seconds. It's a lot of cast time. It's a lot of cast time. Leshrac's cast time is not very good. And that's really what helped Leshrac be more powerful. Now what happens is, if you catch somebody in the jungle, Leshrac doesn't just continue running and kill you solo. He actually has to stop and land his stun and then cast his Edict and then be able to kill you. So it requires him to either have an ally with the disable or for them to have a stun for him to catch up to you. Or he has to be much faster than you. Those are the trade-offs. So this is actually a very good nerf to Leshrac. He definitely deserved it. And we'll probably see him played slightly less, but I don't know if it's really going to matter that much because Diabolic Edict is still so good against towers. So Lich, Frost Nova cooldown decrease from 9.25 to 8 at all levels. So it used to be 8 at level 4, but now it's 8 at all levels. Okay, slight buff to Lich. Lena, Fiery Soul attack speed bonus increase. They're still buffing Fiery Soul. It's still getting insane. 85 attack speed per spell cast. Like, oh my god, that is so much attack speed. It's insane. Laguna Blade cooldown rescaled from 120, 90, 55 to 90, 70, 50. Lower cooldown, pretty cool. Lion Finger of Death cooldown rescaled as well, so it's higher at level 1, lower at level 4, or level 3. And damage increased at level 1 to 600 damage. Aghanims to 725 to 1025. Mana Drain initial cast range is increased to the highest that it goes. Mana Drain threshold range increased. And Mana Drain cooldown decreased. So Mana Drain is now better, 5-second cooldown, which is pretty huge actually. I believe the Mana Drain at level 4 is 120 mana per second. That's insane. You can really, really drain somebody's mana with this late game now. But Lion's still generally a little too squishy, where this might be tough to make usable. It's going to be, I don't know. I don't know if it's doable. We'll see. Spirit Bear no longer can be your summon while it's taking damage, similar to his pullback, which means that you're more likely to get gold for the bear, basically. The Lone Druid can't just say, oh, they're going to kill the bear, I'll resummon it. It's now going to give EXP and gold, yeah, that's a good thing. Yes, that's a good thing. Slight nerf to the Lone Druid, basically. Lord of Avernus, this guy's not in the game yet, one of my favorite support heroes. Armor decreased by 2, this is a nerf to his armor, but he gets major buffs to his abilities, so this is why they had to balance it out. Otherwise it'd be too hard to kill. The Aphotic Shield is now has a lower cooldown. The Borrowed Time cooldown now scales. That's his ulti, so his ulti is now better. Death Coil cooldown is also decreased from 6 to 5 seconds, so his survivability is up by Aphotic Shield. His Death Coil is now lower cooldown. And his Frostmourne is also buffed. The debuff duration is from 2 to 2.5 seconds. But they had to lower his armor as well, otherwise that would have been probably too good. His base armor is actually pretty good. So I think this is completely legitimate buffs. I think the armor was needed to give him all this cool stuff. Luna, Moonglaive level 4 bounce count increased from 4 to 5. Luna, despite seeing a lot of play in the international, still probably does need a little bit of buffs. And now, the nerf we've all been waiting for. Lycan, Summon Wolves mana cost increased. So his mana cost of Summon Wolves is higher. Most importantly, the Spirit Wolves now have way less HP. Look at this. Level 1, they have half as much HP as they used to. That is insane. Which basically means that Lycanthrope is not going to be able to jungle anymore unless he has very high level Spirit Wolves. At least level 1 Wolves, it's not going to happen. Now, importantly, they still have 50. They gave them 50% magic resistance. We were talking about this last night. We were assuming that the wolves had 0% magic resistance before, but this basically means that they're not going to be useless against harassing heroes. I mean, that's one of the things the wolves are good at. They can harass heroes. Okay, I think that's legitimate. It gives him a hero harass tool. 50% magic resistance means that essentially their HP is doubled. So if you look at their HP, they're overall going to have more HP versus heroes, less HP versus physical damage. So the wolves are going to be easier to kill based on just right clicks. They're going to be really bad at jungling, and essentially, since they're down to 200, you're pretty much going to have to lane Lycanthrope now. You can't jungle him anymore until you get your wolf level up a little bit, or you stick to pulling and really weak small camps. So, very good. This is for the best for Lycanthrope. He has one of the highest win ratios in the pro scene, and generally is just really annoying to play against. Also, the wolves can't just tank the towers anymore. With 550 HP, that's insane tanking potential. That's like 8 to 10 tower hits, and then you could just resummon them again, and it's going to be harder for them to tank. So, all around good. Weaker to physical damage, better, or the same against magic. Yeah. Magnus, agility growth increased, and power is better. little bit of number increase. Skewer slow duration increased by a little bit. I think this is very good. The Skewer is a good ability. He's going to be added to Dota 2 pretty soon, so you'll be able to see that. Slark also on the way. Dark Pack cooldown decreased, so that's going to be better. Shadow Dance HP regen increased, so late game especially. That's where they buffed it. They buffed it late game, which I think is good, because late game he has trouble if they have detection. So Medusa, Mana Shield is buffed. Mystic Snake does more damage or bounce, damage per bounce. Split Shot damage per arrow increased, so Split Shot is now better. Medusa, a hero that probably wouldn't see any play right now, because she's really all about just farming a crap load and getting to the late game when you have like ridiculous damage and items. And she wouldn't really fit into the scene right now, so she will need buffs. Meepo is buffed as well. Clone stat sharing increased from 25 to 30. That means that if you get like a bracer on your primary hero, more of those stats will be reflected towards your secondary Meepo clones. If you guys don't know how it works, it's just that way you can't just get a heart and give your all of your Meepos 30 strength, because it'd be too good. You could make him have too much HP, and he would be too impossible to kill, basically. So that's why you only get a portion of the stats. Geostrike DPS increase as well. Maruna, the arrow is lower cooldown. The Starfall single target unit impact damage is increased from 50 to 75. It's a huge buff to Marana. She can better kill solo targets. Morphling, eat this Morphling. Cast animation time increased from 0.3 to 0.45. That means it's slower for him to cast a waveform, and adaptive strike, and a ulti. Morph mana cost increased from 20 to 30. This is a huge nerf to Morph. This is a 50% increase in mana per second to use Morph, which means it's going to be very, very expensive in the early to mid game. Means early ganking of Morphling is going to be much harder. And we may see some possible mana problems with Morphling into the mid to late game, because 30 mana per second is insane. That's a lot of mana. Base damage decreased by 6. He was recently buffed on agility, I believe, by 5, and now he's been decreased by 6 damage. So it means it's going to be even harder for him to last in the early game, which is good, because he can already morph a lot of his agility over, or his strength over to agility, and get a lot of damage. So it's not like he's going to be impossible to last hit with or anything. Waveform AoE increased from 255 to 200, so the AoE is smaller, and it no longer allows you to start attacking casting before it's completed. What you could actually do before is waveform, and while you're waveforming, you're immune. You can't take any damage, and you could actually attack while you're waveforming and cast Adaptive Strike. You could cast Ethereal Blade. You could send yourself back with Replicate. All of that stuff would work. So now you can't do that anymore. You're going to have to waveform all the way through. You'll hit the end, and then you'll get sent back. Alright, Naga Siren, base damage decreased by 12. Huge nerf to Naga's last hitting power. Her cast animation time is also increased by a little bit. So makes it harder for her to cast stuff, including her ulti to get escape from stuff. Net, Riptide is still going to be instant, I believe. And mirror image as well. So it's going to be harder for her to not get chain stun down. Nyx's rage increase. Death Pulse is now heal rescaled. Does more heal early. Better at level 1, which is cool. And level 2 and level 3. Sadist is reworked, so now when you get last hits, you get mana regen and HP regen over time. Really cool remake. I like this a lot, actually. So basically, after you last hit or deny a creep, you get a certain amount of HP regen or mana regen per second. This is actually the same as it was, the same numbers as it was before. When you would level 4 Sadist, if you last hit a creep, you get 60 mana. Now it gives you 10 mana regen per second for 6 seconds. So it's not as initial, but the important part is that now gives HP regen as well. So at level 4, you get 6 times 4, which is 24 HP. Every last hit, you get 24 HP. Kind of functions slightly more like Undyne does. As creeps die, you get HP back, but I think this is a really cool buff that's going to help Necrolite be survivable. He's not going to have to buy as many tank items. He can actually get some damage items as well, so that he can go offensive with some of his items rather than just getting, like, I don't know, Mech and Vanguard and Pipe and Shivas. It's like, maybe you can get a Radiance. Kill creeps, get HP and mana. It's kind of cool. I really like this a lot. I think it's a nice little buff to Sadist. I like the remake that they had before of Sadist, where you get 600 mana from heroes, but it still does that now. You get 10 times the bonus for hero kills, which means you still get, like, if you kill a hero, you get 240 HP now. 240 HP over 6 seconds. Over 6 seconds, but over 6 seconds you get 240 HP at level 4. That's so cool. So you can just ulti a guy and be like, bam, you ulti, you get 600 mana, and you get 240 HP. I think this is a really cool buff to him. And I like Necrolite a lot. I like his playstyle. I like it. Alright, Nerubian Assassin, base HP regen increased to 2.5. This means he's going to be better at laning. This is probably really necessary, to be honest, because he sucks in lane so bad, especially as a solo hero. He has such trouble laning, honestly, until he gets some decent levels, and if they're squishy int heroes, he has options, but it's kind of hard otherwise. So this is good. Mana burn drain amount increased from 4 to 5 int. The mana cost rescaled, so it's actually worse at level 1 and better late, which I think is probably the best way to do it. The cooldown is still probably incredibly low, but this means he's going to be a little bit better in mid-game for nuking. Vendetta movement speed increased. Spiked Carapace reworked. So now it reflects and negates damage dealt to him. Max once from each source, as well as stunning the source of the damage, which I guess doesn't mean heroes anymore. This counts for creeps as well. The stun duration is still massive. The damage reflected is still 100%. This basically means you can wade into a team fight, pop the Spiked Carapace, you know, every 14 seconds, and stun pretty much anybody that does damage to you for 2.4 seconds. That's insane in terms of AoE. Think about it. You jump into an AoE or team fight. All of the opponents throw their AoEs. You put on Spiked Carapace. You stun their entire team for 2.4 seconds. Everybody on their entire team. That is freaking insane. And you reflect the initial damage. Like, imagine that. Everybody on the enemy team not only takes the damage of their AoE, but also gets it reflected back on them. Now, sometimes the damage sources are small, like our auto attack, or maybe like some burn damage gets reflected or something. But huge buff to Nerubian Assassin, big time. Alright, Nerub Weaver. Storm's attack rate is improved. This is how fast the bugs attack your target. Bugs are now better than they used to be. They were at one point arguably very overpowered when Weaver was starting to see some play, but they're nerfed back again. OD's Astral Imprisonment gives you more intelligence, up to 10. Ogre Magi armor is increased. Aghanim's Unrefined Fire Blast cooldown is also decreased, that's with his ulti. Bloodlust and Target Catapults, which is really cool, and the movement speed bonus increased. Very cool, better at level 1. Omni Eye Degen Aura AoE is increased. Panda's ulti is now affected by Black Hole. Some people were complaining about this last night in the chat, but I think this is fair, to be completely honest, because previously, if Panda ultied, it's like I can't Black Hole anything. There's two Pandas, one of which is magic immune, but both of which can't be affected by Black Hole. It's like they could just Cyclone me or throw Boulder. It's like if Panda ulties, you can't do a Black Hole unless you have a Black King bar. Completely impossible. Like, at least allow the Enigma to skill shot Black Hole the Pandas. Like, I think that's perfectly fair. If you sit one of the Pandas outside and you Cyclone him, sure, he deserves it. But I think that Black Hole should allow you to at least Black Hole the area. I think this is completely legitimate nerf to Panda's ulti. I don't think it's even like a nerf. I think it's just something that should have been there the whole time, to be completely honest. I think this is fine. Paylord has a bunch of changes. Dark Rift now is this sub-ability, allows the effect to be cancelled before it resolves. Does not prevent the cooldown from being used. It only makes it so you no longer have to teleport everyone away. That means that you can cancel your teleport. What the way it works is you would set up a teleport to a building or a unit, and after a certain period of time you would guaranteed go there, and you wouldn't be able to cancel. And sometimes you'd accidentally pull your allies and half your team away as the team fight's happening. It was kind of bad, but now you can cancel it at least. Low priority target, similar to how Boots of Travel works. Oh, okay, so if you teleport to a creep and there's other creeps around, the enemy creeps will stop attacking it and they'll start attacking other stuff, I believe. I'm guessing that's how it works. Expulsion is reworked with, it now is a passive aura. Atrophy aura, all enemy units, neutrals, ancients, and Roshan within 900 AoE, which is a huge AoE, have their base attack damage decreased. 18, 26, 34, 42. If an enemy unit dies under this aura, you gain 5 bonus damage for creeps and 30 for heroes. Each bonus instance lasts 30 seconds. This is a really cool skill. It has powerful, really, really powerful implications. 900 AoE is freaking huge, first of all. 40%, 42% damage reduction from base. That means at the start of the game, this isn't as good, but late game, you're going to be reducing like 40 damage from everybody on the enemy team. And if heroes die, you get 30 damage for 45 seconds. But most important, creeps. Like, just imagine pushing with this. A creep wave of 10 comes up, you're 900 AoE away, which is huge. You cast an AoE, you kill all of these creeps, that's, we'll say 10 heroes dying, you get 50 damage for 45 seconds. I mean, yeah, you're a crappy melee hero, but like, 50 damage, like, that's pretty cool. They reworked Firestorm as well. They still have the Pit of Malice, I believe, but this is now Firestorm. Calls down 6 waves of fire that damages enemy units in area. They deal initial damage and burns. I don't know exactly what the rework is. It does 6 waves. I don't believe it's a channel. It's basically they removed it from a channel. They took it back to the way Firestorm originally was, which is you cast it and it does a bunch of damage. 6 times 7 is creep killing numbers. 7, 14, double that's 28 plus another 14. That's like, what, 420 damage? My math might be wrong there. Plus it does 20 DPS for 2 seconds, which I don't know if that burns while they're getting hit, but basically it does a ton of damage. It means you're going to have the power to kill waves very easily and then also gain damage from them. So should be very good at pushing towers now. Phantom Assassin has their ulti buffed at late game, 4.5 late game. Phantom Lancer has a huge agility growth bonus. This is a 50% increase in agility, which means, most importantly, that his illusions are going to do more damage because your illusion damage is based on your agility. So, big buff to Phantom Lancer, which is good because he kind of sucks bad. His slow duration is also increased from 3 to 3.25 seconds. So, basically, they make him better late game with his illusions. The hard part is obviously keeping your illusions up, but if you can keep them up, they can do decent damage now. Phoenix. Base damage is decreased, base strength is decreased, his base movement speed is decreased. He was overpowered, he deserves these nerfs. Supernova now refreshes his other skills, not items, if the sun survives, which is a cool little integration with his ulti. Fire Spirits is reworked. They now don't heal you, they just do damage. They give attack speed reduction to the targets you hit. You hit them in an AoE. They can be launched independently, so you could basically spread this across an entire enemy team to reduce their attack speed. Duration is freaking huge. I don't know if that's the same for the debuff. The debuff I believe is 4 seconds. But they do good damage. 80 damage per second, something like that. I don't know exactly how this works. It's kind of complicated. It's like, does one spirit do 80 damage per second for 4 seconds, or how does it work? I don't know. Spirit impact, it costs HP. Yeah, it's kind of a complicated spell though, but it reduces attack speed and does damage. Okay. Okay, it doesn't stack, it just refreshes there. That's the answer to my question. So basically, it does 80 damage per second. That means that you could cast one, wait 4 seconds, cast another, wait 4 seconds, cast another, wait 4 seconds, cast another. The movement speed is, flight speed is 900, which is pretty fast. And the AoE is 175. Not super huge. We'll see. I'd have to try it out. Icarus Dive is reworked. You now enter a dive state. When in your state, your movement is doubled and nearby allied units are healed, but all damage you take is amplified. This is like a Mask of Madness kind of. Okay, so you're double, your allied units are healed. The heal is 3.5% max HP per second, but you take double. But you're also fast, and the HP cost is 10% of current. And this doesn't heal yourself. Yeah. Applies the heal buff to allies upon cast, does not require you to be in the area, continuously applies buff to units around you until the spell ends. So it's kind of like Witch Doctor's Seal, except you take more damage, and it makes you run fast. Your movement is double. That sounds really interesting. So it sounds like you can basically kind of weave in and out of team fights with Fire Spirits, and if shit gets really bad, use your ulti, which I think is very cool. It's like it makes your ulti a lot more necessary, I think, to keep yourself alive. It's kind of what it seems like. Sunray also reworked. Channels the Sunray in the targeted direction, deals DPS and slows to all heroes in that path. The damage increases per second. The maximum channel time is 6 seconds. Starting DPS, ending DPS. This is kind of like how it was before. It also does the slow. This is how Sunray was before, but it was OP as shit because you could permanently let go. Now it's a channel. It has a max of 6 seconds. I assume deals DPS and slows in all heroes in that path. Damage increase per second. Okay, whatever. Distance, slow duration, cooldown, mana cost, HP cost. I don't know. We'll see how he plays. I'd have to play him, see how he works out. It's kind of complicated as a hero, so it definitely requires a lot of playing. Alright, Puck gets buffs. Dream Coil duration increased from 5 to 6. Aghanims goes up from 7 to 8. Illusory Orb AoE increased from 220 to 225. It means it's easier to land, which is good because it's a little slower in Dota 2. It's harder to land in Dota 2. Waning Rift damage is increased. Fixed phase shift and vulnerability is just a bug that they fixed. Pugna gets a movement speed buff. Now one of the fastest heroes in the game at 320. I believe fastest is Luna at 330, unless I'm mistaken. Nether Ward mana flare damage increase, so Nether Ward is now much better. Maybe not much, but better. Life drain break range is increased, so life drain's a little better. Razor gets a bunch of buffs, still kind of a crappy hero, but his min damage is decreased. His max damage is increased. Static Link no longer breaks if Razor loses target vision. That's good. You can't target the ground anymore, but you can use it on magic immune targets, which is pretty cool. Unstable Current's Purge duration increased, so his passive is better. Rubik has a movement speed nerf by 10, pretty significant. Fade Bolt bounce AoE decreased from 500 to 440. It means the bounce is a little bit harder. Very, very slight buffs to Rubik, nothing major, which is a little surprising. Out of all the good heroes, he's probably the least nerfed. Shadow Demon Soulcatcher mana cost is increased. The Shadow Poison AoE is also increased. Shadow Fiend Necromastery hero skill Kill count increment increased from 6 to 12. So if you kill a hero, you now get 12 souls, which is insane. Presence of the Dark Lord, armor reduction improved from 2, 3, 4, 5 to 3, 4, 5, 6. Most importantly, now his new passive component that triggers upon death. So whenever Shadow Fiend dies now, he will half ulti, and it doesn't count for the cooldown. So if he dies, he already loses half of his souls, but now he actually releases them for damage. So that means you can actually do respectable damage, not amazing damage, but respectable damage just by dying. You could also ulti and then die and ulti a half ulti as well, which is cool. So I kind of like this. Very cool. It's not on cooldown or anything, but it's now a passive component. So it's a cool little buff to Shadow Fiend. Silencer strength growth increase is very good. Global silence duration increased. Cool. Last word now always steals 2 intelligence if an enemy hero dies. So cool. I like the strength growth buff. I think you really need that. So that gives him an extra 10 HP per level. 10 HP per level, so if you're level 10 here, you have an extra 100 HP, which is actually pretty significant. Big buff to him. Maybe not big, but a moderate. I think this is very important because it's going to allow him to maybe play a little bit more of a support role. If you're just around by kills, like you get 2 intelligence, which is cool. But he's kind of more of a carry, really. Skeleton King, Hellfire Blast, slow increase by a slight amount. Skywrath Mage, concussive shot, cooldown decreased. I don't remember what that skill does, so I can't comment on that. Slardar, amp damage, armor reduction increased. Makes Slardar better. 20 freaking armor. God. It's insane. Sniper headshot, damage increased up to 75. Take aim range bonus increased. 300 versus 260. Shrapnel AoE increased, slight buff on everything, and shrapnel duration increased from 8 to 9. So it does slightly more damage to towers. And he has better range, but pretty much the same hero. Spectre, Desolate damage increased from 20, 30, 40, 50 to 20, 35, 50, 65. So Desolate does more damage. Spirit Breaker, big changes to him. Base strength increased by 6. That means he has an extra 114 HP at level 1. That's freaking insane. Huge HP increased. And 6 damage. Damage increased by 9. So he basically gets a net plus 15 damage at level 1. Charge of Darkness no longer gives a buff indicator to people he's charging, so you can't see him coming unless you have wards. Charge of Darkness speed increased by a lot. Empowering Haste no longer increases Spirit Breaker's damage. Now this is a pretty big deal because before you could get level 4 Empowering Haste and hit for like 120 damage at level 7, which is insane. It doesn't do that anymore. But the movement bonus is now higher, so Empowering Haste gives you more movement speed at level 4. And Greater Bash now deals damage based on your movement speed. No longer based on the 100 or whatever. So this means that now his damage is more based on Greater Bash, which means attack speed is arguably more important because you need to proc the Greater Bash to be effective. But if we do some quick mental math here, I haven't actually done this yet, but let's just assume. Let's say you're at 300 base movement speed, you get boosts, you're at 350, and now you're going to bash a guy. So 40% of 350 is, what, 35 times 4, which is 35, 70, 105. That's like 140 damage about, if I'm doing the math correct. So you're doing 140 damage just on bashing with regular boots. This does not include movement speed bonuses. This kind of, in a lot of ways, forces, I would argue, Mask of Madness is borderline required on him now, just because the movement speed bonus that you get from Mask of Madness would increase your bash damage by like, I guess it's not that much. If you increase your movement speed by 20%, you're really only getting like 24 damage per bash, something like that. But movement speed, big deal. So I'd say movement speed very important now. Greater bash duration is also increased. I don't know. I think this is cool buffs all around. And by the way, of course, 750 movement speed is insane. And if you bash based on that, then that's a lot of damage. That's a lot of freaking damage. 40% of 750 is like 70 times 4, 75 times 4. That's like 300 damage. Yeah, that's 300 damage. That's insane. Big damage possibilities. But it's all about the Greater Bash now. It's no longer about right clicks. It's all about bashing. So, kind of making it more of a bash here, which is interesting, but who knows. Storm Spirit gets a buff. 3.5 second cooldown and static remnant. Sven Great Cleave increases. The damage is also buffed. God's Strength bonus damage increased. Warcry AoE increased, and Warcry armor increased from slightly up to 16 at level 4. So, kind of cool. Torrent Chieftain Ancestral Spirit can now be controlled until it starts to return to you. Wow, I didn't know that. So now you can cast it and move it independently. It's not doesn't like reflect your actions, which is interesting. This is really good. It's easier to initiate with him now. What you can do. He is the same speed now, though. He's the same speed as you. So what you can do is kind of cast him behind your opponent and make sure to micro so that it's always in position to stun if needed. It's kind of cool. His return ability no longer interrupts your hero, and I wonder if that means you can you can channel stun and then return him to you. I don't know. He also has Echo Stomp and Spirit Return abilities. It can cast directly, so cool. Okay, so if you use the Spirit to cast Echo Stomp, then your primary hero also does it. Kind of cool. I think we're almost done. Getting pretty low here. Let's scroll down a bit. Nope, not even close. Okay. Deckies, armor increased by 6, which is huge armor increase. Landmine cooldown is decreased. This is like the biggest armor buff I've ever seen, by the way. He has very low HP, so the armor is just going to help him stay alive a little bit to physical damage. Temple Assassin Sideblaze no longer spills damage when attacking illusions. That's good because now you can't just like one-shot a whole team by attacking illusion. Terrorblade is kind of being put back to the way it was before. Armor increased by 2, base HP regen increase. Sunder no longer blocked by Magic Immunity, and Metamorphosis is back to the way it was before, which was you transform into a ranged demon and does damage. Reflection was his previous skill. So it's by 60% now, which is insanely huge. Huge slow. So basically he's like the way that he used to be before, except he doesn't have Life Drain anymore, he's got Reflection. So it's like they reworked Reflection, they removed Conjure Image and made it a part of Metamorphosis. And now he's like back the way he was before. Metamorphosis, Conjure Image, and except now he's got Reflection over Life Drain, which is good because now he has a Disable. He has a Slow. Important. And the illusions actually do really good damage, 70%, which lasts for 5 seconds. So in teamfights, this is actually going to be pretty decent damage output. Not amazing, but good. Zeal was kind of cool, but I think this is the best way. I think the Conjure Image was very important to keeping your illusions always up, and giving you decent damage. Like it's like when I played him before after the remake, you would use Metamorphosis and you get all these illusions, and then your illusions would die, and you're like, well, shit, now I have no damage until I get Metamorphosis again, because that was the only way to get your illusions up. So it was a little borked. Tidehunter Ravage travel speed distance decreased, so it means Ravage explodes slower. Tiny's tossed cast range is now consistent at 1300. Treant Protector, big remakes for him. Damage increased by 14, huge damage buff. Base attack time increased. It means he attacks slower as a hero. He's not as affected by attack speed items. Overgrowth no longer does any damage at all. The duration is increased up to 4.5 seconds. And the cooldown is decreased from 115 to 95 to 80 at all levels. Living Armor is now replaced with a new active ability. It's called Living Armor. Targeted an allied unit or structure, it grants bonus regen and physical damage. I didn't realize this is structure. That's really cool. Bonus regeneration and physical damage block dispels when more than 6 damage instances are taken. This means, by the way, it gives you HP regen, physical damage block for heroes only, and threshold of 6 damage instances. And it lasts for 20 seconds. That means at level 4, you can heal 200 HP of a hero or a building. And for heroes, it gives you a physical damage block as well, which means you can block 80 physical. It's like a stout shield for 80 damage for 6 instances in a team fight, which is actually pretty significant. Early game, that's pretty much a full attack. Not that you'll have level 4 at early game or anything, but it's still pretty significant. Good for probably, I would say, low HP heroes who are regenerating in a team fight in the back of the battle, and also to give them some survivability. Pretty cool. The way that Blitz talked about it, he basically meant that he thinks that we'll see long lane Treants who gets max living armor first, and they'll cast that globally on the mid hero to give him damage block as well as HP regen. And it should allow them to win the lane, because then when they trade hits, it's not as big of a deal. But it'll be cool to see a lot of communication with this in high level teams. Can't wait to see this get played. But I think it's a nice remake. I mean, Overgrowth now does less damage. He still is going to have Leech Seed, but largely, Treant Protector, very shit damage as an individual hero now. He's got Leech Seed and right clicks. That's it. He can cast Invisibility. He can cast Living Armor. But now his ulti doesn't do damage. The cooldown's lower, the disable is huge, but we'll see how this works out. I think this is going to kill his win percentage in pubs, but I think he's still going to be very usable on high levels. We'll see, though. Maybe not, but as a long lane hero, he can be usable. He can just go invisible for long periods of time, sap EXP, and cast Living Armor, basically. If he gets some mana regen. You could probably do it with the Soul Ring, just like sit in Viz and then cast Living Armor constantly while grabbing EXP. Something like that. Troll Warlord, Battle Trance now lasts full duration for allies. He's not in Dota 2 yet. Tusker, not in Dota 2 yet. Snowball carries his controlled units. Cooldown is decreased. Crit, Walrus Punch is better, and the backswing animation time decreased, which is cosmetic. Undying, Decay steal duration increased, so Decay is better. The AoE is also increased. Tombstone Deathlust HP requirements also trigger if the target is below 510. Okay, that's very smart. This means that Deathlust is going to be better late game, because the way it worked before was a HP level, which means that if it triggers below 200 HP, that means that at the early game, if you only have 500 HP, that's what, 40%? If you're below 40% HP, the zombies start wailing on you. But late game, this wouldn't be as good, because if you have, like, I don't know, 2000 HP, the zombies are going to trigger upon you when it's at 10%. So this means that guaranteed they're gonna always Deathless trigger at 20%. So this makes them better late game, which is very good because Undying actually does need late game buffs. So this is very cool. I like this. Ursa Aura cast animation time decreased from 0.5 to 0.3. This is for his stun on the ground. The other two casts are instant. They didn't used to be though. Overcharge and Overpower. Overcharge, which is the fast attack one, used to have a cast time, which was kind of dumb, but it doesn't anymore. But now it's gonna be easier to use the earth or the thing. Oh shit! Never mind. Overpower now uses Ursa's cast animation time, so that means it's back to the way it was before. So now you have to cast for 0.3 seconds to get Overpower, but in effect also the earth. It basically makes the earth spell better. The slow better makes Ursa harder to just burst somebody down by standing next to him. So Vengeful Spirit agility gain increased, means he does more damage as a hero. Venomancer Plague Ward's vision decreased. Okay. Viper Corrosive Skin duration increased, Aghanim's cast range increased, and Nether Toxin max damage also increased. Visage base intelligence increased by 3, so more mana early on, more damage. Grave Chill attack speed drain increased from 32 to 64. It's a cool buff you can use against carries and team fights now very effectively. Familiar's base attack time decreased, they attack faster, and Soul Assumption damage per charge increased from 60 to 65, so slightly more damage out of Soul Assumption. All around buffs to Visage. Might still be hard to play competitively. Warlock Shadow Word damage per heal increased. So Shadow Word is now better, 50% better at level 1, which is a nice buff. Witch Doctor Death Ward attack cooldown decrease, so attacks faster. Maledict is better, scales better at level 1 earlier. Zeus Arc Lightning cooldown decreased, and Thunder God's Wrath decreased. Okay, I think that's all the heroes. New item, Shadow Amulet. This gives you 30 attack speed for 1600, and as an active fade. Upon activation, fades your hero out over 2.75 seconds. If you move, you will lose your invisibility. There is no cooldown on this. Note 1, used in the new Lothar's Edge recipe, and 2, similar to how Lothar's Edge works, you can use this invisibility in combination with channeling spells. So that means you can cast Death Ward, you can then cast Shadow Amulet, and then 2.75 seconds later, while standing still, you will go invisible. This only works standing still, but I assume you can cast this while you're channeling, essentially. So you could say, I am playing Warlock, I'm going to cast Upheaval, and then I'm going to go invisible, and then if they don't have any AoE stuns, they're not going to be able to stun me, and Upheaval will channel for its full duration. So it has some cool implications. The downside is that the attack speed is kind of shit for a support hero, so I don't think... I think it's possible we'll see this item on... So, no, I don't think we'll see it on support heroes in high-level games because it doesn't give any stuff that you need, like stats. Like, the reason Ghost Scepter is also good is because it gives you +7 to all stats, which is useful on pretty much any hero. But 30 attack speed is only good if you're auto-attacking. And I think we'll only see this maybe on some gimmicky pub heroes, I'm guessing. Something like that. Abyssal Blade can now be disassembled, which is cool. You can disassemble into a Basher and then make a Divine Rapier if you so wish. Django, it gets a nerf by 6 damage. I think this is absolutely necessary and legitimate. We'll see it less on carry heroes now. Arcane Boots mana cooldown increased. So that means Arcane Boots are now nerfed from 45 to 55 seconds. Armlet. HP regen is increased from 5 to 8. The life drain is increased, so it does, but it offsets obviously. This means that it's better when it's turned. Okay, it doesn't. You don't lose any extra HP per second, on or off, but that means it's now better when it's off. It gives you a lot more HP regen, which is cool because now you can get this over a regen item very, very easily. And the toggle cooldown is also reduced from 5 to 1 second, which is a big deal. Which means that now if you're low HP, you can just turn it off, turn it on. Wait a second until you get low again, turn it off, turn it on again. So you can toggle it a lot more in team fights. We'll see a lot of big plays out of that. Black King Bar can no longer be sold, which means that if you want a new Black King Bar with full duration, you'll have to drop it on the ground and buy a brand new one. So it's going to cost 3,900 gold instead of half of that if you want full charges, which is good. Going to make Magic Immunity a little bit less effective. Blade Mail damage return duration increased, so Blade Mail slight buff. Bloodstone, you now get kills if you're out of kill range, which is good. For heroes that do damage over time. It's not that huge of a buff, but it's probably something that should have been there. Brizza is better now. Critical strike multiplier increased. Dagon cooldown decreased. Slight buff for a Dagon 5. Still won't see it played. Stygian Desolator, big buff here. The duration increased from 7 to 15, so now you can attack like 4 different heroes in a team fight and reduce their armor by a lot, which is very good. Ethereal Blade can now be cast on allied units, which is actually really cool. It also now does damage based on the primary attribute of the holder instead of always agility, and the mana cost is increased by a lot, up to 150. So this means you can now get this item on strength heroes or intelligence heroes. The main hero we're going to see this on is Centaur, most likely, because Centaur has insane strength based on his ulti. So now you could just... I mean, the downside is that it gives you agility, which means attack speed and armor, but it's not terrible to have on any hero that has a lot of primary attribute, because it gives you attack speed. If you have a lot of your primary attribute and then you get a lot of attack speed, all of a sudden you start doing reasonable attack damage. And now you can use the Ethereal Blade to do big hits. So you could get this item reliably on a hero like Queen of Pain, who's now going to have really good attack speed. You could just Ethereal Blade, combo a guy, do like an extra 40% damage. It's reasonably not as bad. You can get it on more heroes than just Morphling now. So people are saying Pudge, because Pudge can get insane strength. I mean, you can do like, what, I think it's like 2 times your primary attribute, which is going to end up doing like, it's not that much damage. But you know what you could do? You can Ethereal Blade a guy, and then you can Rot Dismember him and do a shitload of damage, because all that Dismember and Rot damage is going to be buffed then, because it's magic immune, or it's ethereal. So that's what you'll probably do. You'll hook a guy, you'll E-Blade him, and then you'll Rot Dismember, and you could do serious damage to one guy. Or just walk in and Ethereal, slow them down with Ethereal, and then Rot Dismember. Kind of cool. But the agility is really wasted. The agility is really wasted on Pudge because he's not attacking. He'll have armor, which is cool, but the attack speed very wasted. Yule's Scepter, recipe cost decreased. So Yule's is a little bit cheaper. Force Staff now, recipe cost increased to 500, so 200 extra gold, which is needed. Force Staff was too good. No longer pushes through kinetic field, so a buff towards Thrall there. Power Cogs is triggered by Force Staff. Power Cogs knockback takes priority. So this is what I was confused about before. This means that Power Cogs will no longer be countered completely by Force Staff. So pretty cool. Gem of True Sight restock cooldown is increased, so Gem is now worse. Heaven's Halberd, disarm is better on range heroes, 4 to 4.5 seconds. Helm of the Dominator, the cooldown is decreased massively to 60 seconds. It no longer has a duration. It used to be 20 minutes. It means the dominated creeps are now permanent. And dominated creep when you already control and roleplay your current one. Okay, so the cooldown is vastly decreased, but you can only have one. This is good because there's not really, nobody's going to stack dominated creeps basically, unless you're joking around. And now basically means that you're always going to have a creep by having a Helm of the Dominator, which is cool. If it dies, it's not the end of the world. You say, okay, whatever, I wait 20 seconds or however long you have left, and you get a new one. So that's very cool for the Helm of the Dominator. Much better for stacking heroes. It's very cool. I like that a lot. Very cool. Lothar's Edge duration is increased up to 12 seconds. The recipe is reworked now. It uses a Claymore and a Shadow Amulet. Make sure that you guys don't go buy a Quarterstaff. Keep this in mind. Always buy the Claymore first, then get a Shadow Amulet. Gives you 30 damage, 30 attack speed. Same stuff. Windwalk, whatever. Manta Style. Recipe cost increased from 650 to 900. So it now costs, what is this, 250 more, but Yasha is 100 gold cheaper. So basically it only costs 150 more, but I think this is a net needed nerf. Manta Style is really, really good. Mask of Madness, Moonbeam bonus increase from 25 to 30. So it's 30% actually that gives a Spirit Breaker, which is pretty significant. Null Talisman, recipe cost decreased, so Null Talismans are now better. This means Dagon is now 15 gold cheaper. Null Talisman's arguably the worst of the 3 stat items, for sure. The worst of the 3 stat items, so probably for the best to see Null Talisman get a slight buff. The main reason that's a bad item is because it doesn't build anything other than Dagon, and nobody builds Dagon, so that's why Null Talisman's. The only heroes we ever see this on is basically a Queen of Pain right now. Observer Ward's cost is decreased from 200 to 150. I think this is an awesome buff, and in a lot of ways is just really needed. Observer Wards are annoying to play against, but first of all, they make you better at the game when you get used to buying them. Supports are going to be less unhappy about buying wards. There's going to be more ward consistency on the map. This is going to also encourage using smokes more often. It's going to be good for pubs. People are going to be more incentivized to buy them because, oh, it's only 150 gold, no big deal. So they'll spend less money on Observer Wards. This means supports are going to be much more farmed late game. This is 50 gold every 6 minutes. It's not a shitload of gold, I guess, but 10 gold every 1 minute. It's like a gold every 10 seconds or something. It's not the end of the world. I think this is cool. I think this is a nice buff. Very good. Very good stuff. Orb of Venom cost is decreased. I mean, Scotty's cheaper, but who cares? I think this is very good, actually, because Orb of Venom is usually not worth the money. 350 is actually a pretty severe amount, so it's going to be a little easier to afford to buy this now. Orchid Soulburn's damage amp increased from 25 to 30, so Orchid slightly better. Power Tread's attack speed bonus is increased, because right now Power Treads are not very good or popular. Radiance Burn damage is increased from 40 to 45. Not completely sure why they did that, but Radiant's still popular in a lot of heroes. Rod of Atos HP bonus increased by 75, and the cooldown decreased from 20 to 16. I really want to make this item work. I've tried it a couple times, but it still never really works that well. But this extra HP is pretty cool, the fact that it gives you more now. I like the idea in theory, but it's still very, very expensive for what it does. I want to make it usable. I'll see. That's going to be tough, though. I think maybe Ancient Apparition is the hero to make it work on. Tranquil Boots, Rod of Atos. That's my build. I think Arcane Boots is too bad on that hero. It's too expensive. And this way you could go Rod with like a Sage's Mask and actually get pretty good mana regen. It wouldn't have Arcane, but I don't know. I want to make it work personally. Sanj, recipe cost decreased from 700 to 600, so Sanj is now better. Smoke of Deceit is now dispelled when Primal Split, so you can't use Smoke against Primal Split anymore. Soul Ring cooldown is increased from 25 to 30. Soul Ring is nerfed. Tranquil Boots break requirement decreased from 4 to 3. That means Tranquil Boots are nerfed. Tranquil Boots are nerfed. Soul Ring are nerfed. Both together, which I think is fine. Veil of Discord armor bonus increased from 5 to 6. HP regeneration increased from 5 to 6. Discord AoE increased. Discord cast range increased. So Veil majorly buffed. Maybe not majorly, but moderately buffed. And Yasha, recipe cost decreased. So Yasha is now cheaper. I guess that's it. So Sanj and Yasha are now less expensive by 200 total. So Sanj and Yasha is 200 cheaper. Where's the Sanj? There it is. So yeah, Sanj and Yasha is 200 gold cheaper. Manta is now more expensive. And yeah, that's it. So that's the patch 6.75. I know that Luminous also was working on a patch notes. I believe as of my recording, he hasn't made it yet. So I'm going to link you guys to that here. If I remember, please God, if I remember. If I don't remember, please tweet at me. It's at Purge Gamers. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter as well, I always talk about when I'm streaming or playing or just cool stuff. You guys can talk to me there. I usually respond to most tweets that are good questions. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Sorry this was so long, but huge patch. Lots of cool changes. Can't wait to try it out. I love reading patch notes. It's one of my favorite things in gaming. And I'm just saying gaming. Like when I play a game very seriously, it's so much fun to read patch notes and changes. And Ice Frog is one of the best. So thanks for watching, guys. Somebody asked me about this on Twitter, by the way, and I was like, originally wasn't sure if I wanted to do it because Luminous is also doing it, but I figure some of you guys care what I think as well. So if you guys want to watch both of ours, do it. Just go click on his video and go watch it briefly. If there's anything, if you want to get his opinion and B-Ballin's opinion, go do it. And thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to make a meat post soon. I swear to God, I'm going to do it. I was going to do it this morning. I'll do it now. All right, see you later. Bye.